You're listening to the Road to Wisdom podcast, weaving stories told by wonderful minds about all things motherhood, health, intimacy, politics, nature, and everything in between.
Join us on an adventure discovering unique experiences that we can learn from to enhance the ways in which we live.
We are your hosts, Chloe
and Kashia. Welcome everyone to the Road to Wisdom podcast. Today we have Steph Ruzic from the Village Mumma in the studio. Steph is a boss woman with a beautiful postpartum nourishing business and also fellow free birther. So we've got Steph in today to chat us through her 3 births and and give us a little indication of where, how, why and which, because our audience loves a good free birth story.
As do I.
Yes, and the journey to get to that place. And so welcome, Steph.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
It's fun.
So would love to start with, oh my gosh, I've forgotten your... Luca.
Yeah.
Would love to start with Luca, I guess, conception story. We'll roll into pregnancy and birth.
Luca was conceived on the night of our wedding in Bali.
Stop, that's
7th of September. Yeah, it was but it was like 4:00 in the morning and I was like, we're having a baby and it's going to happen now. Like we'd just sort of worn off the alcohol. We were just serenading each other with the musicians like by the pool. It was beautiful. So, fell pregnant a month later. So we were meant to go to Mexico and Cuba for our honeymoon, and not knowing what we know now, fell pregnant and we what do we do? So we go see a doctor. We go see the doctor down the road. We're living in Brisbane. We go see this doctor in Tenerife. He's lovely. Pulls out a folder out of the shelf like, this is what you need to do. Like these are the stages. Okay, cool. You know, it's exciting and overwhelming and all the things. So that was the start of the journey, I guess, with Luca. I didn't have any like-minded friends, didn't really have any close friends that had babies recently. It was more like, 10 years ago or whatever, and things were different and they probably just birthed in a hospital and that was normal. So I knew I didn't want to birth in a hospital. So the next step was, do we find private midwives? And at that stage, we couldn't find anyone. I went to so many different ones. We ended up finding some and they were lovely enough. But again, I was just like, oh yeah, cool. Go see them. They, use a Doppler, check the heartbeat. Anyway, before we fully engaged them, the doctor said, every time you come in, we're going to do a urine test and we're going to see what's happening. And one time he did a urine test and he said that I had a UTI. And I was like, oh, okay, no symptoms, but okay. Gives me a course of antibiotics, which I would have never have taken ever, and even as a kid, because we never did that stuff. I took them, felt like shit, just upset my tongue. It was horrible. And then when I went and saw the midwives, they were like, oh, actually the results came back and you didn't actually have a UTI. And, red flags, you're sort of like, why the fuck did he make me take antibiotics then? It doesn't make sense to me. So then the other thing was I feel like I was very much in my, have to please everyone. So, if the doctor says to me or the midwives say to me, you have to do this, I'll do it. So the gestational diabetes test, right? I don't eat bad. If I have something sweet, it's very mindfully chosen and I don't overindulge in anything. So I sit down and I'm sitting with this lady. I at the time, I was like, I can't pull out of this. I've committed, I've taken the morning off work. I'm going to go because that's what I've said I'm going to do. So I go and I turn the bottle around and I look at the ingredients and I read the ingredients to the lady, and she had a giggle. She's like, haha, you're the first person that's ever read the ingredients on the bottle. And I was like, there's numbers, there's colours. Like, why are you making women drink? Oh, it's just because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I was mortgage broking then. And I finished work. I went straight to the fruit shop and like loaded up on like all the fruit, all the veggies, like not even fruit, it was veggie, like celery sticks and carrot sticks, like trying to like rid all the shit out of my body. I could not think. I could not function. Luca was like kicking like wild. I couldn't work. Like literally the whole day was a write-off. It was disgusting. So that was another little experience. I was like, why the fuck did I do that? Like, who am I trying to do this for? I'm not doing it for myself. I know I'm healthy and well. I don't need this test. But anyway, so then fast forward to the birth. The rest of the pregnancy was pretty whatever. Fast forward to the birth. It was Mum's birthday, and we the day before had just moved back to the Gold Coast. And I was like, oh, I might just go to the shops.
The day before?
The day before.
The day before. You moved to
but I mean, I was 38 weeks and I was like, yeah, like I won't have the baby till 40. Like I was really not even attached to a date or a due date or anything. But, you know, obviously we were like busy packing, moving, like getting the room set up, whatever. And I thought, you know, I'm going to go get Mum a birthday present. I went to the shops. I was so uninspired to get Mum a birthday present. But as I was walking, like I just started feeling things, and I'd never had a Braxton Hicks. Like I had no idea what was going on. Caught up with like one of my mates that I hadn't seen in ages, had a chat, like it was just whatever. Got home and I was still working because I hadn't actually done my work handover. And it's funny, but I was on the phone to Macquarie Bank because I was, you know, dealing with customers' loan, and this guy I was talking to him and I'm like, I think I'm in labour, and he's like, oh, cool. Like he's like, thanks for telling me. Yeah. Got off the phone. So this was about 3 PM. And I still didn't even think anything was happening.
Really? Sorry, can I pause you?
Yeah.
So you just moved to the Gold Coast. Had you employed anyone to be a midwife, or were you planning to go to the hospital at this stage?
So we did engage some midwives in Brisbane, and they were happy to come. And because we were close to the Southport, the Griffith Uni Hospital at the time, they said, oh, you know, we'll allocate you to this hospital if we need a transfer and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Cool.
So I let them know at about, I want to say 4:30. And I just said, something's happening. I don't think it's anything much right now. Then at 5:30, my waters broke. And when my waters broke, there was meconium. So unknowing, you know, I was like, okay. So I had a doula at the time. I told the midwives, and they said, oh, we're going to go to the hospital and we want you to come to the hospital because we need to monitor you. And I was like, oh, okay. Again, good girl, whatever. I'll just add, throughout my pregnancy, I did see a craniosacral therapist. Her name was Claire Brassard. She has since passed. She's just the most incredible woman. Free birthed her last kid, like just really like fierce. French woman, swore like a sailor, like just really straight to the point. And I love that about her. So I actually called Claire as well. And I said to her, Claire, like I'm in labour. Like I was very much deep in labour, but I sort of was able to articulate like well enough. The midwives have told me to come to the hospital. She was like, fuck the midwives. She's like, stay home. And I was like, oh, okay. And then again, like, because I'm in this like transliminal state where I'm here nor there, oh, what do I do? Okay, you know, I decide I'm going to go to the hospital. So we get in the car. I definitely was in transition just before we got in the car because I remember stopping, like walking through the bathroom and like getting up on my tippy toes and just like whatever. And then got in the car, 10-minute drive to the hospital, not even. And I got there and he was born in 15 minutes of getting to the hospital. Like Iggy had just parked the car and just made it into the room. So that journey to me after post fact felt so unnecessary to the hospital. I loved it. Like I was like, wow, like it just happened and it came out and, you know, like it wasn't even a thought. It was just like, you know, and I was just standing when I had him. And also good girl syndrome, walked into the hospital room and I said to the midwives, where do you want me? Like hindsight. Like
Maiden me, what is wrong with you?
Right? Just shake her up. But like, where do you want? So anyway, wherever you like. And I was like, oh, good. Thanks for the invitation. Like I needed that. So they
letting me do what I need to do with my body.
Right. But they just lifted the bed up because I just felt comfortable standing. So I was just swaying my hips side to side and I had a beautiful birth. And yeah, I guess that was like the big opening for me because I always had a positive attachment to birth because mum had really like easy births, even though my brother was induced unnecessarily. Now mum understands that, but it was never spoken about as a bad thing. Like she always spoke really highly of her experiences. So I knew that, you know, I could do the same. Mm-hmm. So then Tiana, we fell pregnant.
Can I just ask?
Tell me.
Because you had a reason to transfer. That's still very much a reason to this date why people get so panicked. Did anything happen? Like what was
No, they laughed. They were like, oh, our paperwork took longer than your birth. Like, and you know, like.
So like there was no, with the meconium,
nothing.
there was absolutely no reason
Perfect
to be.
APGAR scores, like everything like that. They test.
Antibiotics. No.
Yeah, okay.
Amazing.
It's bullshit.
One of us had to say it.
Sorry. But like it's absolute BS. Like meconium is not a cause for concern. It's a cause for concern if you have a hired midwife and they have to tick a box because they cannot control birth. But they can control an outcome based on their decision to transfer you because then they can somewhat control birth, but they can't, right? So if we take you to the hospital, then we know we can manage, we can monitor you and this and this. Come on.
Oh, I love you, Steph.
Mate, like it just gets me going because it's a really common thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, placenta previa, okay. Like different true medical emergencies, absolutely understand, right? But still, I remember someone sharing with me once, like, you know, when they get a scan, the placenta's so lolling and, you know, like the obstetrician said I have to have a cesarean. The placenta is like a balloon. You blow up the balloon, what happens? It comes up the wall. It's the same. The placenta's not going to stay down there.
So Tiana, let's get into it.
Tiana was, so I, from the start, I was like, I'm free birthing. I very much, like I became obsessed, and just a little realization that I've had recently, why I have become so obsessed is because I love sharing my stories and my truth that resonates with me. And when I had the experience with Luca, I felt like I became obsessed for like all women. Like it was like I wanted to learn. It wasn't just for me. Like, you know, we have this innate wisdom. We know all this stuff, but then the reminder, so then we can articulate like what it is that we've learned to then impart more knowledge to more people. Not everyone wants to read all the books. Not everyone wants to listen to all the podcasts. So that's why I became obsessed. Anyway, so decided I was going to free birth, hired a doula who at the time wasn't aligned with my choice of free birth, but came around. And so Tiana's birth, it was pretty like unexciting. I had, I don't know, morning, night sickness, whatever you want to call it, for up to 16 weeks. It was
just to clarify for everyone, because you said Tiana's birth.
Yes.
Tiana's pregnancy was unexciting.
Yeah, pregnancy. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I picked up on that at all is pretty impressive.
That was impressive because even my brain right now is not there. So it was just really straightforward. I mean, I didn't get any scans. I didn't have any medical support whatsoever, and that just felt right for me. And the day of her birth, it was just like another day, you know, like we were at Currumbinally, we went up to Freeman's Organic Farm. Actually, the morning we went to the Eco Village for breakfast, like, and I felt niggles. But again, like I had this non-attachment to like how long I was going to be in labour for, and, you know, but it seemed like a common theme now, like from when waters break, 2 hours is like a sort of like, yeah, the way it goes.
Your rhythm.
Yeah, I put Luca to sleep. So I was still breastfeeding Luca and put him to sleep. Well, actually tried to put him to sleep, and my nipples were so sore, like ouch. And I was like, I got to get up. Like I just couldn't lay still. Like it was, you know, I was like, I got to get up. And he was unfazed. He, you know, he was young. He was 2.5, not even yet. And he just sort of got up and he just sort of like potted around, you know. And then, yeah, like at 12, so that was about 8:30, and waters broke at about 9, and then, yeah, at 12 she was born. So I was standing for Tiana's birth again. Like I really loved to feel the earth under my feet. I did try the pool. I was in and out of the pool, but every time, I think maybe there was a bit too much water in the pool. It felt too buoyant. Just like I needed, I need the earth under my feet, you know. So yeah, that was like really, again, I just like my experience of it was really beautiful. Like I feel like there was elements of the birth that I reflect on that I think, like, I know in my birth video, like I tell Igor to stop touching me. Like I really didn't want anyone touching me at all. Like it just felt like maybe what he'd learnt because we did, actually I didn't mention, we did hypnobirthing for Luca's birth, because again, it was like this opportunity to do something different that was not mainstream, and I really believe that it didn't have to be the way people perceived it to be. So that was great. It was a good induction also for Iggy, I feel, like a good start. But also I don't agree with everything in hypnobirthing, because I feel like there's a lot that it's almost like the husband needs to have this role of like tickling the wife and doing these things, when in actual fact, like she doesn't need that. Like as a man, as a masculine, yes, like I believe like he can hold the space for the house and the children. And if, you know, we call our men in and say, hey, like I need you here, yeah, cool, they can show up. But we don't need to give them a role to try again, like save us in birth, you know. So yeah, that happened in Tiana's birth, where I was like, don't touch me, like a fierce, you know. And yeah, then postpartum. So I guess the birth of, I'll just touch on the village mama. It started postpartum with Luca, and then like skyrocketed from Tiana's postpartum, because basically I felt great. Had a great birth. Baby came out. We reintegrated. Everyone was back to work in 2 weeks. And here's Steph just in the community, going to the markets, cooking dinner, doing all the things, and really not nourishing myself, like really, you know. And something interesting, realization I've had, and maybe it's common knowledge, but for me, I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm going to jump forward and then go back. But
Go for it.
Alakai's birth, I really honoured my postpartum.
Yeah.
So I bled for like 4 days and that was it. And I was like, oh my God, 4 days. And I realised, because I actually was still. So I gave my body the opportunity to do what it needed to do. And then like I may have had like a little bit of light bleeding, like a little bit after, but it was like.
Can I ask, what was your bleeding like post Luca and Tiana? So
probably like at least 6 weeks. And I wouldn't say heavy, but I would say there was enough of a flow to be like, when am I going to stop bleeding? You know, like it was starting to just be like, okay, I'm done.
No, I've had similar experiences, like heavy period flow for the first 3 weeks, and then for the next 2 to 3 weeks, still on and off bleeding.
Yeah,
I've had that too.
Yeah.
And then and it's with Poet knowing a little bit more about postpartum and rest and care and trying to integrate that as best as possible. I noticed that the days that I was more on my feet, it would
You bleed
flow.
more.
Like, yeah. And you're like, oh my God, this is actually like I'm clocking into an actual fucking thing here. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So birth of Village Mama, because I felt like there was this inadequate care. And even though I had a doula, I didn't understand maybe to the extent of what I needed that doula to do for me. Because I feel like, you know, like my family's busy in life. Iggy had to go back to work. You know, mum had a couple of weeks off work as well. But it was all, everyone sort of does that first 2 weeks. And then you're just out on your own and you got 2 kids and you're like, okay, like let's try and make life normal because we don't want 2 kids at home and, you know, trying to reintegrate. So, that was the start of that journey. But then I'll fast forward to Alakai's birth. So like all babies, we've consciously conceived. We've said like, you know, we want to have babies every 2 years. Like that felt good. And, you know, it just sort of happened. Like I knew when my body was ready and it just happens, you know. But actually I will add, and I feel like this is a bit taboo because I haven't really spoken to many people about it, but I feel like for me, I had to go through it so I could talk about it. But before Alakai's birth, I had a miscarriage or an early birth. And that experience for me, so I was like, I eat well, I've got no chemicals in my life. Like, you know, like what is going on in my body to actually reject this baby, you know, like there's something going on. And now knowing what I know, I mean, like I was intermittent fasting, like my hormones would have been like, what the fuck are you doing to me? Like, how can I carry a baby and you're still breastfeeding 2 kids and, you know, like all the things. So that happened. But then I fell pregnant with Alakai 2 months after that. And also now knowing what I know, I probably could have given myself some more time because the miscarriage journey is still pregnancy.
And birth.
And birth, that's right. So like 2 days postpartum, you call it postpartum, but after the loss, my breasts were engorged. Like they were huge. And I was like, wow. Like that is insane. And one of my closest sisters, like she actually had a miscarriage not long after me for her first. And I like truly believe that I had to experience what I experienced so then I could fully support her because really otherwise there's a misunderstanding because it's not spoken about enough. It's quite taboo, especially mainstream, like women go for stretches, sweeps like to get rid of a miscarriage. Like it's just, you know, it just happened.
But
like
it does need like full support because your body has still produced all the hormones. You're still, like it's not just a period. Like you're going through contractions. Like
absolutely.
It's a lot. Yeah. And I do find that in society we don't give that enough reverence and like hold just even minimally just the nourishment front. Like you actually need to rebuild your body because you've still gone through any amount of that process, which takes from your body. Like, so no, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, that was a big part of my journey as well. And also supporting my friend because I was straight onto it, like had a congy on straight away, like made some tincture, like just to support her body because she actually laboured for 2 days.
Wow.
You know, so it's a lot and I get goosebumps because it's so like unknown and not spoken about. So but then Alakai's first trimester was really rough. So my body was depleted and obviously not restored adequately. So I had up to probably 24 weeks, which what would have been diagnosed as HG, but I don't attach to a diagnosis because I'm like, you know what, it's my body doing what it needs to do. But it was a really big lesson for me in actually asking for help. This was like the initiation that I needed that Alakai gave me because otherwise I was like always too proud. Like, no, like you know, I'm choosing to have these kids. So I'm okay. Like I'm sweet. I can do all the things and it's all fine. But I was like, I couldn't move. Like it was like Iggy had like 10 weeks off work and like just to help with the kids, like because I couldn't keep anything down. And because I was not going to go see anyone, I just had drip nurses come out to the house and just put some fluids in me like,
Yeah,
you know,
wow.
just so I had something, because like, oh, my tongue was like so clammy all the time. And it was just, you know, it was just the journey of it, but also a big initiation for me to actually like set up my postpartum, you know, actually ask for help, like build my village around me. And it was interesting because around that time I had certain friends drop off. You know, and there was real beauty in that, because I feel like, you know, you want people, you know, you don't need.
You're purging in many ways.
Yeah. And they didn't serve me and I didn't serve them, you know, because I was like I was like a hermit for how long? Like I couldn't function, you know. So so then for Alakai's birth, I engaged Michelle Palacia. Because to me, Michelle, is the epitome of a birth keeper. And even throughout, you know, like pre-birth chats and all the things, like I always knew that I didn't need her there for the birth, but I just love what she stands for in holding the space, and not only for birth, but also for postpartum. So like my experience with, I feel like, okay, I'm jumping forwards and like, surely there's mums listening, they get it. Like
We've got 3 pregnant women in the room.
We're keeping up.
we're keeping up. Like okay, so I'll go to Alakai's birth first, and then I'll share about my postpartum. But Alakai's birth, so I was 39 weeks, and we had a wedding to go to. So the wedding was in Brisbane. It was a Croatian Greek wedding, and it was so much fun. Like I had heels on. Everyone was like, "Wow, you're so pregnant." There was another mum that was due in like 2 weeks after me, and she didn't come out of the house just in case she was going to have a baby. And I'm like, "What do you mean? It's a wedding. Let's go have fun." Like, so it was fun. I was Greek dancing. Like we had a great night. But as I was dancing, I was like, "Oh, something's happening, but maybe baby's just dropping, whatever." Like,
You're moving
yeah, that's cool. Like I was just down for whatever. But that night we stayed in Brisbane. So like, you know, like we're in the trees, and I feel like sensitive to like just the high energy of city and lights and all the things. So we stayed at Kangaroo Point in this apartment, and it was nice, but like you hear the noise and the train, and I couldn't sleep that night. I could not sleep. So we got home at like 11. And the kids were there. So mum and dad came up with us, and you know, took the kids out for dinner and whatever, and then got into bed, like squirm into bed with them, and I couldn't sleep. I was like tossing and turning. I went to the toilet so many times, and the next morning I woke up, like I must have slept for like 2 hours or something, but I was fucking exhausted. I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I lost my mucus plug. So I was like, okay, something's going to happen. But when we lived in Brisbane, we had a favourite restaurant. It was called Shook. It's called Name now. It's like this Middle Eastern inspired, like delicious. And I was like, we're in Brisbane, we're going for breakfast. So we went for breakfast. I just put a pad on, whatever, because I was like, I'm still going to do life. And
This baby will wait.
yeah, like food first, like always, like food first. And then also, so then we got home like fucking knackered, but our dear friends were having a gnocchi day at their house. So we were going over to their house in Currumbin to make gnocchi, and like amazing, like, you know, traditional gnocchi making, like we just did our thing, had dinner, had 2 like massive bowls of gnocchi, and I just like sort of excused myself from the table because I was like, I'm in labour. Like, I'm like, something's going on, you know, like I just couldn't talk. I was like, I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm just going to sit down. And someone came in and had a little yarn with me, and I was like, oh, we're going to get going, you know, like it was about 7 o'clock and I was exhausted. And I thought that something would happen that night. But I think my body was just like so knackered.
Not ready.
No,
I need some energy here.
Oh, right. So, but then like I was laying down, and I had, I don't know, maybe like every 15 minutes or so I had a contraction, and it was like pretty intense, but also I was fine with it. I was just like going with it. Iggy, bless him. Oh my God. So I was curious. I was like, can you just check the time? Like every time a surge would come on, can you just check the time? And then the poor guy, like I was up and down. We went downstairs for like an hour and nothing happened. So I was like, let's just go back to bed and then we'll deal with it tomorrow. But I probably had like
Deal
those.
with labour and
Yeah, like
pains
it's
and shit
fine.
tomorrow.
Like another day. Let's just move on. Like don't get stuck in the moment. Like, okay, it's good to be in the moment, but like let's just keep it flowing. Anyway, then that night, I reckon till like 4 a.m, it was going like, and I couldn't sleep. I was just loving it. I was just like, yeah, I'm all good. I'm tired, but whatever. Poor Iggy, like because he'd check the time every time. I would have a contraction.
Babe, do I still have to do this? It's been 24 hours.
Yeah, but,
yeah, babe.
no, but even I didn't even know, like, because I think he'd hear me, and I didn't even ask.
doing what you're asking.
I didn't even ask for it by the end of it. He just kept checking the time, like as every time he heard me make a noise. So then the next morning he goes, babe, that was like Chinese torture. And I was like, what do you mean? What's Chinese torture? And he said he loves Joe Rogan, okay? Like he was listening to a podcast and they were talking about this method of torture that is like so excruciating, but basically you're lying down strapped up and it's a drip of water on your temple.
Yeah.
Like every whatever. And he was like, and I was like, what do you mean? It was beautiful. Like it wasn't torture. Anyway, the next morning, went for a walk along the beach. Again, non-attachment to anything because I was like, I birth at night. I'm not going to birth in the day. It's a new day. Like I just need to get out of the house. I had mum and dad living with us as well at the time. So that felt like a little bit of like an element of me not really being able to drop in, you know, like totally undisturbed. I was like worried, like when's dad coming home? Like, I'll get out of the house or, you know, it's just not the same. And yeah, I went for a walk on the beach. I was proper labouring on the beach. Like we just went to Palm Beach and, you know, like I'd stopped a few times and I was with my girlfriend. So I was like holding on her and then we got to the toilet and this lady walks past and she's like, you look like you're in labour. And I was like, yeah, I am. Like,
good observation.
Yeah, right. But then we got in the car. So I think we got home at about 11. And I was like, I think it's happening. But like at 11, like to tell Michelle, like, hey, like just so you know, like something's going on. You know, she's got 2 hours to drive, mind you. So anyway, I told her and we had a photographer for both Tiana and Alakai's birth, Laura. She's like a fly on the wall. Like she's beautiful. Anyway, so she came maybe 20 minutes later. I actually don't even know the time. But Luca and Iggy got the birth pool ready. It was really sweet because Luca was really involved this time. He wasn't as much involved with Tiana because he was still younger and a bit unsure, like mummy making loud noises. And it was so sweet. He's like holding my head. He'd like just come up to me with some water, like not even asking, like sweet. And yeah, got in the pool for a bit. Sort of like in and out, like sort of couldn't get comfortable, but I didn't want it up high. So I just had like a tiny bit of water just so it was at my waist so I could still feel flat. But the surges were really intense. Actually, I didn't add for Tiana's as well. They were. It would have been labelled as like posterior, whatever, like non-attachment to anything. But it was like intense because Luca's, it was like he just came out. It was none of that. Whereas Tiana and Alakai, it was quite intense back labour, which was fine because I was like, I feel like it was just part of their own journey. And every time with Alakai's labour, every time I had a surge contraction, I had to hold Iggy and like just pull him down. Like I was just like it felt so good just like having that extra weight and just, you know, like letting out some of that energy. So yeah, basically I was standing over the pool and so we got home at 11. He was born, I can't even remember what now. Oh my God, does that happen after like multiple births?
Yeah.
Can't remember what time the baby was born.
I think it just happens when you're pregnant.
Anyway, I hadn't had any waters break yet. But then I was standing in the pool and Luca was in the pool with me and I was like, oh, baby, I need to do a poo. Doesn't sound anything like that on the birth video, by the way. Nothing like that. Like, that's what it sounds like. Baby, I need to do a poo. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, it's a baby. So then my waters broke and then he just like literally dove into the water. And
so did you have your feet on the ground? Like were you
yeah,
standing?
I was standing and I
Okay.
was holding Iggy, but I sort of had my head like over my perineum, you know, like, and then, yeah, he just dove out into the water.
Just fetal ejection.
Yeah,
reflex.
just poof.
Gosh, that is like, because like in 2 of my births, I've been like, I needed to go do a shit. And like, but it's been head, then shoulders. So I've been able to like get off the toilet. Like
I
maneuver
watched
off the
all these
toilet.
videos that had that and I expected that. Every baby has just shot out. Literally. Luca, then Tiana, and then Alakai. But like Alakai, thankfully, like, because I was holding Iggy and he went to let go of me and I was like, come back here. Oh. And then like he couldn't do anything. No one else was there. Like the videographer was there. Michelle didn't make it
Yeah.
because time and just they come out. And yeah, so that was Alakai's birth. Like a really, I just feel like a normal experience as to what birth should look like, you know, like it was really non-eventful, like journeying through my own realms of things and like, you know, it's just.
Eating great food.
Yeah, literally.
And
That was
prioritizing that. by the way.
always,
Yeah, good.
always.
Good.
But then my postpartum, so coming to postpartum, I feel like that is like the real standout. So I feel like there's a lot of talk about birth prep. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, you got to do this and you got to do courses and you got to do this. But like our bodies, like we go to the toilet to do a shit. Like we know how to do a shit.
You don't need to prep for it.
No. It's the same. Mm-hmm. It's the same. There's no difference. Like, do you want to go shit in front of like 15 people with lights on or like what? Or do you want to just do that privately in the comfort of your own energy? Like it's simple.
It'd probably be a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm assuming, right? Like,
Right?
Unless
I've
you've got,
never
like,
done the
The
ladder.
other, yeah.
Unless you've got a kink. Like
I can verify I do not. There's no kink. I don't want to take a shit in front of anybody.
But it's just like such a simple thing. So yeah, just normalizing like the fact that like cool, like you can like hear women speaking about their birth stories as part of your birth prep or doing whatever you want to do, but like really focus your energy on postpartum. So then I have this experience with Michelle and I've never experienced this in the first 2 births with a doula. And Michelle is like a real life like angel. Like words cannot do her justice. Like just the way, like you're sure you see her on Instagram and you like, but like in like the things that she did and just like really protecting our like family's energy as well. Like she just like made sure that Iggy was with me and the kids were with me and we were all connected and she was just floating around like just doing little tidies, but I didn't even like know what was going on. Then she'd like just come sit next to me and pick up my foot and just start massaging my foot or like just like, you know, just like and then, you know, just little check-ins, like, you know, just coming up to me with whatever, some food, drink, like not asking. I didn't have to think about anything. Then we went up, I had a shower, the kids had a shower too. She helped me get dressed, she helped the kids get dressed. And then when we got in bed, like we did another like oily foot, well she did, foot massage. And that was just like.
oh, it's the best, isn't it?
But like, I'm like, oh my God, I've never experienced this. And I was just like, I'm not moving. Like I'm so content right now. But how it should be.
Dude, you know Mimi.
Yes.
So
she's
Mimi's my
beautiful.
photographer.
Yeah.
And she did that for me after I had Poet. And my feet were like covered in blood and she still just like picked up my feet while I'm like sitting there. And
What were you doing?
No, because like I didn't birth in the water or anything. So I
Oh,
and I hadn't had a
okay. It
shower.
wasn't like you
So,
were like bush bashing or something, bare feet.
No, I birthed
Yeah.
the placenta in the hallway.
Yeah.
And then like as I was walking out from the bathroom to where we'd kind of set up a bed that I could bleed on freely and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had like blood all over me still. And she just like picked up my feet and started rubbing my feet. And I was like, this is the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my entire life, I think. Like, sorry for all of our experiences, Tolga, but that was like legit.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
foot rub post
Yeah.
baby coming out. Mm.
And just like and then the socks on and just like that. But then the continual support, like I didn't expect it. I've never had support postpartum. Like, as in, like, someone that would actually show up and just be like, hey, like, I've got some food, brought some things for the kids to play with. You go have a nap and I'm going to play with the kids. And I was like, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Like, thanks. Like, wow. Like, there's no words,
And I
you
think,
know?
like, from a physiological perspective, it like shows if you only bled for 4 days postpartum, like that kind of support shows how quickly our bodies are capable of healing if we just like wise up a little bit and sit the fuck down
and just
Put
be
your feet up.
still. I feel like there's so much pressure on us from society that we have to reintegrate back into life and, you know, be seen with a newborn and all these things, because you just do life. Like, it's okay. Like, we can handle it. Like, we have the capacity to handle it. But then, you know, people pay, like our children pay, like we pay, but in the long term, you know. And I feel like I experienced that in my first trimester with Alakai's pregnancy. You know, like feeling like really depleted, but that wasn't just because of the miscarriage. I feel like it was also because of the first 2 postpartums. You know, it's so intertwined and there's such a cellular and it like a memory that the body attaches to, you know? So it's like you can't get that time back and you're not in a hurry to be anywhere or do anything or be active. Or the other thing actually I didn't mention was for Tiana's birth, we burnt the cord. So we waited like maybe 3 hours or something and burnt the cord, and it was really beautiful. Like Luca was a part of it and it was a really beautiful ceremony. But then we decided to do a lotus birth for Alakai's birth. And like, wow. Like what, like I feel like that was such a beautiful experience for me as well, but also like to force me to be still because I think it was for about a week. I was just upstairs in bed, like didn't go downstairs, like food would come up for me, you know, like, but I really wanted to experience that. But then Alakai's integration was so beautiful. So his cord fell off at, I can't remember now, it was day 4 or day 5. And then it was like he landed. You know, like it was at that moment that he was like actually here, but he was still between worlds. And it was so beautiful because we were just upstairs together, like taking each other in, you know, like really slow and mindful, you know.
I've had mixed reviews about lotus birth, and but the two things that I love about it is, one, you're forced to stay in and rest. Like there's that component of you can't actually go anywhere because juggling a baby and a placenta, and like then the cord's, you know, tight,
you don't want
and
to
it's
tug
hard and you know, so you got to stay still. The second one is that no one can touch your baby.
Yes.
So there's no, like, you can't even, because I felt a lot of pressure actually after Poet to let other people hold her, and I was pretty strong, like I don't want to, like I want her just on me for a while, but then, you know, my grandma had come up and she just loves birth. And like, I had lots of, like all my sisters were there and my mum was there. It was like this really beautiful, like just feminine energy for Poet's birth. And she was about to leave, like she needed to go. And I was like, no, I kind of wanted Poet to, like, I wanted them to have that connection and that microbiome. But at the same time, I would have so loved to just have that excuse that was like, oh, you're going to have to stay a few more days if you want to touch the baby. Like, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I feel like there's also just the hard cord and not being able to move can also work in the other way where you're like, okay, this is a lot of juggling and many kids are jumping on the bed and that kind of thing.
Well, I think that's the meaning behind it, right? The whole point of it is really just that. It's not for, I mean, maybe some people think that there's a physiological or biological reason for doing it, but I think it is just that. It's just this is required. It's, you know, even just the meaning of lotus flowers in general. It's just the purpose is to be still and wait,
Absolutely.
be patient and allow what's going on under there to do its thing to come up here. And so
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a beautiful segue to the story about placenta. Should I share?
Yes.
So,
please.
so this book that I've read, it's called Placenta: The Forgotten Chakra. It's by Ibu Robin Lim, and it's a beautiful book if you ever feel like you have the space to read. But there's this element of it that just
Really quickly before you go into that. So Ibu Robin Lim, she is, can you give us a brief explanation of what she does? She's like a midwife.
She's a midwife. She's
Bali.
based in Bali. She's
Yeah.
based in Ubud. So she's really known for her, approach to birth to be quite holistic and really open-minded. And she's got her own clinic in Bali.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure she opened it up just for locals. So locals had somewhere to birth that like it was knowledgeable and obviously like slightly more find the words for me.
alternative.
Well, no, not so much alternative, but maybe cleaner.
Oh,
to
I
it.
see.
'Cause
Yeah.
She was working with lower
Yeah.
socioeconomic families, and so it was just like somewhere that was just a little bit more sanitary and safer to birth.
But anyway, on that, right, like surely like the kids that are born like in the dirt are going to have like a microbiome that is so tough, like they would
exceeds.
like, and they'd be fine too. But it's such a beautiful thing that she does because it's a really beautiful space. So I'm going to just read the story, and it's not that long, but it's a really incredible story. So in some cases, the placenta maintains the baby's life even after both baby and placenta are born. The first time I experienced this was when our family dog Madhu, a mixed basset hound, birthed 9 babies. One was stillborn. Madhu licked her stillborn puppy, and even more interesting, she aggressively licked the placenta of the stillborn, which was still attached to the pup via the umbilical cord. I had just read an article from India that the old Ayurvedic method of reviving the stillborn was to warm the placenta. Warming the placenta is consistent with the Ayurvedic beliefs about the significance of the placenta. For centuries, the practice of stimulating the placenta if baby does not breathe or appears lifeless at birth has been practiced in India, Bangladesh, and Burma. Warming the placenta with heat, i.e. hot water, or manual stimulation massage, activates the jiva, the prana or life force, of the child that is stored in the placenta and is passed gradually into the baby after the birth. I recalled this as I watched Madhu continue to lick her pup's placenta, the pup now nestled under Madhu's chin. After continuing for some time, Madhu picked up her chin to reveal, miraculously, a living puppy. Madhu ate all her pup's placentas, though she did not begin right away. She waited until 9 had been born and the stillborn pup revived. This was an all-day process from dawn till night. Once she had revived her pup, Madhu chose the biggest, strongest pup and ate his placenta, and then she continued to eat the placenta of the next strongest pup, and then in order until lastly she ate the runt's placenta. Somehow she knew to leave the placenta of the weakest pup attached the longest, thus allowing time for the life force to pass fully from the placenta to the pup. A few nights later at the Bhumi Sehat Birth Centre in Bali, I received a stillborn baby into the world. We had never seen her malnourished mother before the night. She began pushing very shortly after she arrived. The baby's heart rate skyrocketed just as she was crowning him and then stopped. The baby was born and did not begin to breathe. His heartbeat was absent and his muscle tone was limp. We immediately began performing CPR while administering oxygen to no avail. There was no sign of life, yet death did not feel close. 13 minutes later, when the placenta was born, I asked the nurse to quickly bring me a bowl of hot water. We placed the placenta, still connected by its cord to the baby, into the warm water. The baby's grandfather added Tirtha, holy water from the family temple, and instantly the baby shuddered and took a breath. The baby is perfectly healthy and his name is Tirtha. That's it.
That is so insane.
Like I get goosebumps every time I read that story.
The things
It's
that we
so
don't
important.
fucking know.
It's just so fascinating because we spoke about this before, like to consider the fact that we potentially have an innate knowing or animal, like that animalistic version of us or the instinct. Like to think that we could give birth like that to a stillborn baby and actually have the ability
To revive
to revive it.
It gives me goosebumps.
It blows
that's not the
my
end.
mind.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's the fear I feel like for so many women and families and men. Oh, what if the baby's like needs help? What if the baby needs resuscitation? Like that's a really common fear, isn't it? Like we've got to be near medical support because they can resuscitate the baby. Oh, we'll hire a midwife because then they'll come with their bags and they've got oxygen in their bags. You know, it's a really, but then there's these age-old practices that have this innate wisdom that we're so detached from in the Western world. You know, we're really just brainwashed by this like a medical paradigm that is supposed to save us. Like
I feel like we feel like we've come so far too. Like, oh, let's birth the placenta. Oh, it stopped pulsating. It's good to go. And like even just that is only, it's still so far from the depths of what is really the truth and what we actually could be like missing out on.
absolutely.
And so to think that, yeah, it's just nothing because it's white.
Yeah, because it looks like it's stopped.
We've observed,
Yeah.
it's not.
and
like,
to our
it
naked
can't
eye.
be.
Yeah.
Like that's a bag full of life. It's not over because it's just changed colour.
Absolutely.
It's such limited
And you think
piece of information.
if that were to happen in a hospital, like the first thing they would do is cut the cord and start reviving the baby, like trying to resuscitate the baby. The first thing would be
so
to
take
cut
the
cord.
baby and cut the cord straight away, so
Yeah.
stop the life force.
Yeah.
And then take the baby away from the mother because they don't resus like on the mum. Like they take the baby onto a hard piece of plastic.
Under really bright light.
Bright lights. Probably like how many doctors and nurses like would be in the room at the time this little baby hasn't even had the chance to integrate, you know, and then that's the start of like this whole disconnect for the mother because then there's issues breastfeeding, there's issues like connecting with the child, and there's like postnatal depression and all these things that come along with it. But, you know, a woman that comes away with a healthy baby from the hospital is just deemed to, not even have to process the trauma that she just endured, that she didn't get to land with her baby and connect, and it's just fucking wild. Like,
Yeah.
the whole concept of it to me is just so backwards. And I feel like the reason why I get so passionate, like, sure, like we've all got our lived experiences, but like when we really go back, like centuries before us, like it was so normal that, you know, there's so many beautiful cultures that have just, it's still normal for them. You know, if we go to so many different parts of the world, like birthing and then the support postpartum, it's really norm. But here we're so, I don't know, like got the blinkers on and like just can't see outside of our like one track mind. Like it's just crazy.
It is. It's wild.
It's wild.
And and we can see that the culture's starting to shift, but then at the same time,
Still
they're
so far away.
We're so far
To
away.
consider that we can revive a stillborn baby from where we are now, just like blows my mind. We are
Can
so
you imagine
far
if the
away
doctors
from
knew
that.
Like if in a hospital setting,
They would just discount it like immediately. Like there's no way.
no way.
I mean, even though there's so much research, if
God.
you're into research, it's like on paper, it's the safest place to give birth is at home. But there are still doctors and medical experts and whatever the source is, still saying it's not, still saying
Well, they don't
it's
trust birth
No, all women.
or women.
All
But
bodies.
their perception of birth is only what they see in a hospital.
which is mostly not great.
Protocol.
Absolutely. And it's all controlled to some degree. You know, like how many women you hear of getting like a, my God, what's the name of this? Pitocin shot like after birth to birth a placenta. Like
I had
without
one.
even knowing,
I've had one too.
Like, but you don't even have the opportunity to consent. You're still between realms. And then they just boom. Oh, can I do this? Yeah, boom. What'd you just do?
And the studies actually show that it doesn't help decrease. Like there's no evidence to support that it helps decrease blood loss, which is why they do it.
Well, it increases it. No, well, I mean, they do it because they want to get you out because the placenta's got to be born, and if it's not born within like what is it, 3 hours or something, then
Oh no,
there's
I don't
something
think they
wrong.
give you that much time.
It's probably not even that much, is
I'd
it?
say it's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's
if
not long
that.
at
I
all.
had 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
So, but that in itself, and then, but what happens?
No, I birthed the placenta first and then they gave it to me.
Oh,
The placenta came out in 10 minutes. It was to stop blood flow, apparently. Yeah.
like come on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, mate. But then how many hemorrhages has it caused? Because the body's contracting too fast, it cannot handle it. But then that even in itself is not the cause for concern. Like if you are bleeding a lot, be still. Like don't be overwhelmed. Like the environment is everything. So if everyone around you is stressed out, like we know like how many incredible stem cells are in the placenta that just grew a whole being. Chop a bit of the placenta off, put it into your cheek. Immediate transfer of stem cells, you'll be right. You'll be right, mate.
It's just too simple though.
It's too simple. There's no money in it.
No money.
You know? And it's just even the
Or drama. We were actually just talking
yeah.
about drama and how drama. Actually, I'm currently reading Rhea Dempsey's book, and one of the things that her second book, one of the things that stuck out to me so much was she had spoken to a training obstetrician, female obstetrician, who had left the system. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Rhea, and you're listening to this, but that woman was under like the head obstetrician, and the head obstetrician was performing some kind of completely unnecessary procedure. I think it was a C-section, completely unnecessarily. And he was saying to the student obs, you need to create a drama around it. Like, oh, just in time. Like, and he would say things like this in front of the mum because it makes her feel better and it makes the room feel better. Oh, just in time. Or lucky we did this, even if it was completely unnecessary, because you want them to feel like they were saved. And I was just like, I'm like reading this book, like, oh my God, I had to share it with Togga. I'm like, I need, like, just that sentence, like, I need a debrief on this, because, like, when you're hearing it straight out of an obstetrician's mouth, you're like, oh, like, you know it happens, but you don't want confirmation.
But that's their job. Like their job is to perform a medical procedure. That's what they're trained in.
Yeah.
You know, like their job is literally to deliver a baby. Like, so they want that. They thrive on, like, how many cesarean births do you hear that they like conveniently booked on a Friday because like the doctors don't want to come in if you go into natural labor. So we're going to book you in.
Yeah.
And you know, like.
Well, like imagine training for it to be a firefighter and like waiting, like something in you has to like get off on like being there in the moment in a really dangerous place where people like, you got to save people. And like, imagine if you never get the chance to put out a fire. Like, isn't it a thing that firefighters go and light fires?
Yes. No.
So
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And do you know what I mean? So like you go into a hospital
Yeah.
and an obstetrician or someone who's there to perform and do this task that they've spent so many years, so much money, so much investment into this thing that they believe in. Like you're not going to go in there and like go home and have it and just not have had been
sit in an office all day or something and not actually deliver a baby.
So if you're a
Sit
woman
on your hands while women actually just birth their babies,
it's
and everything's
probably
fine.
not like they're not reading they catch up from the, you know, they're reading or something in the corner. It's like they're there to do that. And so,
it's so
it always
true.
comes back to this taking responsibility. Like if you don't want that, don't go there. Don't put yourself in that position where,
That's the thing.
and be super informed, because most people aren't. They're just waiting for something to happen to them.
I feel like that's a big part of also like midwifery, and like I have so much respect for so many midwives, and you know, like obviously they do beautiful things and the way they support women, but if they're APRA registered, they're going to bring the hospital into your house.
They have to.
They have to.
They're bound.
Like there's no other way that they can maintain their registration unless they become a lay midwife like Claire Brassard. Did I mention she was a midwife as well? She was a lay midwife. Yeah, so she was like definitely against midwives because she saw what they did, the way that they acted and the way, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, firsthand. And she was like, no, it's not the way it should be. But if you know that you're bringing the hospital into your house, like, yeah, like sure, it happens, but there's still going to be forms of intervention in order for the midwives to tick the boxes.
And they have to tick those
They
boxes.
have to.
They don't have a choice.
But this is it. This is it. And even the dialect, like around progression or dilation, like, you know, a lot more midwives that I know of, they are respecting the mother's wishes to not do a vaginal exam and all those things, which is great. But then when it gets to a point where they're like, oh, my shift's nearly up, you know, like we've been going for a while, like, do you mind if I do one? And, you know, like, and just see what's going on. You know, it's like you're still, the woman obviously doesn't feel safe to birth around you right now. She's just too overwhelmed. Maybe she just needs to sleep. Maybe she needs to go have sex. Like maybe she just needs something else and not to be around someone that is watching her. Like
maybe that baby just doesn't need to come out that fast.
Literally, but literally, this is the thing. So then when you're being watched, like you're on a clock.
Yeah.
So you're on a timer. Like, fuck that. I cannot imagine feeling like I had to do it on someone else's watch. Like it's just that, even that idea. But then the fear that goes with birth, it needs to be dismantled, but it needs to be dismantled in a way that like we were saying before, people take radical responsibility. Like take ownership. Like take ownership for your life choices and the decisions. Like if you're choosing to have a child, you know, and you want to have a family, you want to do these things, like make choices that are aligned with your values. And sure, like if that's going to a hospital, know that you are making that choice.
Yeah.
And that is okay. There's no judgment around it. There's no there's a non-attachment to all of that. It's more so just take radical responsibility because then like if we're talking like even a year or 2 years or 5 years down the track and you're navigating maybe a similar situation, but then you make the same choice, I'm like, come on. This is something that's just been going on for me lately. Like just the stagnancy, it gets me. Like we have the opportunity to continually evolve.
Yeah.
Like we do constantly in our every day.
And we've got the information out there to
and
help
we
us.
do more than ever. Like we've got the ability for it. So when you make an excuse or point fingers or try blame someone else for your lack of evolution, it's like, no, you've got to come back to yourself because you're the only person in control. Like if you get to the crux of it, you know, like you're in control of birthing your child. You're in control of choosing your life partner. You're in control of choosing your friends. Like in every aspect, you know, if you don't like it, walk away. You know, if something's not going right with the kids, like reevaluate, like whatever it is, like always you have a choice, right?
Yeah.
100%.
And this is just like, this is a constant evolution. Like, you know, you hear people saying like, oh, when I'm pregnant, I don't like taking in any information. Like I just go insular. And I'm like, sure, I respect that if that's your journey. But also there's a real beauty in learning and growing because as we expand, as our body expands and our baby grows, like our capacity maybe to retain information is not great, but our capacity to take information is amazing. But it's
it's still ruminating. Like I find that it's like whenever I'm pregnant, while I sound like an idiot and can't find words like photograph.
You're doing good.
Yeah, you're doing great. Yeah.
But I do feel like the information you do take in, so long as you're like discerning with that too, the stuff that will ring true will sit with you
absolutely
in your labor.
Absolutely.
And it will like that will be what soothes you when you have your own crisis of confidence. So it's important. But I would also say that when it's time to step away from information receiving, you listen to that as well, because definitely at the start of this pregnancy, I felt very deterred from hearing other people's stories. I did not want to take anyone else's shit on board. I felt way too open, and we've talked about this.
We've experienced it with the podcast.
And just like
not wanting to listen to certain things, and
but
just be
absolutely,
like, it's not for me.
Absolutely, but that's the discernment, right? Where you can be like, no, you know what, I'm going to block that energy right now.
As opposed to like, oh, this is going to happen to me. This is for me. This is mine. Oh, I have to be suddenly like
it's not
dramatic
your
over this. Like, ooh.
which I found is like where we're at now, like in this third trimester. trimester, I feel like I can hear any stories, I could take on any information, and I feel so grounded in how I feel and my decision making and where I'm at that it's, you know, water off a duck's back. Like I'm not taking on other people's stories and freaking out about it. It's very much, okay, that's what's happened to them and I'll know what's right for me in the time. So yeah, I thought I'd put that out there because
I absolutely resonate with that. That's like usually for me first trimester, I like literally need to block out the whole world. Like if they're not on the same frequency or they're not like understanding, like I just can't. Like I'm the person that people talk to, right? And usually I have this great vast capacity to hold space and to be and to do things. But first trimester, like baby's always like, block it out. Like go within, you just don't have the energy for it. Plus you got kids, you got life, you got to do all the things. Like that extra, like we shouldn't be bombarded with it, you know? Like it's just more to process, more to navigate, especially when you're dealing with like other situations and all, you know, like it's too much. We don't need to, even though we know we have the capacity to handle it, you know? It's just this really like, it's self-awareness really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Really knowing our bodies and like setting boundaries. I feel like that's a really big thing.
For all women these days. Yeah.
Even if you're not pregnant.
Yeah. Start practicing those boundaries.
Yeah, totally.
If you're a maiden, start practicing those boundaries because I feel like from what you've said, I can definitely resonate with so much, and I feel like we've heard so many stories like that where it is this people pleasing that we've just grown up with as in some cases as a survival mechanism. But yeah, if you can start setting boundaries beforehand, you don't have to go through the postpartum. I wish I'd have set a boundary.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like people, how far is people pleasing going to get you? Because you do the pleasing and you're the one who has to live with the regret. They're like, oh, what if I just didn't do that? Or like, oh, back then when I didn't have that awareness, or like I thought it was the right thing to do. It's like, well, only you're going to live with that. So it's a good time to be like, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for my midwife, my friend, the podcast that I listen to? Am I doing this because everybody else is doing it? Yeah. Is it like, what is here for me?
And that's like also like standing in your truth and like speaking your truth, right? Like if you're trying to protect everyone's energy because like if you say something wrong, like you're worried about like how people are going to perceive you. It's like, no, you know what? Like when like you come back to your values and like your core values are aligned with what you're sharing and your words and your worth and your work, then it's going to be received in that way. And it may be triggering for some people, but at least like, you know, you're being integral to you. You're speaking out of integrity, right?
100%.
Amazing. Yeah. Steph, where can people find you if they want ridiculously nourishing postpartum meals?
The Village Mumma. So it's the.village.mumma, MUMMA.
On Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah. Also on Facebook, but
no one goes there.
I'm on Instagram, but to be fair, I'm really bad at social media. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the space for it. It's a love-hate relationship. I know it's great for business, but also...
It's almost necessary for business nowadays.
It is, but also word of mouth is amazing. And I feel like that's part of like the love in what I do, because I love what I do. I love nourishing women and families.
I'm like, I think I might hire Steph to make some food for me.
Yes, but I love it. And so that non-attachment again to like gaining business through social media. For me, I'm like, it's all good. Like people know about me, people speak about me. Word of mouth is amazing. I just show up here and there, put some stories up. Like,
if you need to order,
I do my best, but
people.
like, yeah, I'm there. I'm in the background. You know, life's busy with 3 kids at home full time and pregnant with number 4. So, you know, it's just, it is just the way it is for now.
Packed.
It is. You know how it is.
No, don't. No. I do.
Well, thank you so much for coming on,
you.
Steph, and thank you for sharing your stories. They're
Pleasure.
beautiful, and I hope everyone could follow along. But I think you did a good job when you had to jump back and forth. I think we did all right.
We didn't lose too much. Yeah.
If I was able to follow, I'm pretty sure everyone's got this.
Yeah. You've all got it, people.
Yeah.
All right. Mwah. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Road to Wisdom podcast. To join the journey, you can follow us on Instagram at theroadtowisdom.podcast and www.theroadtowisdompodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. We look forward to seeing you next week with more juicy content.